We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, July 31st here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and this is News Generation. Today we're joined by Park Ki-yoon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Lovely to have you. And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Now, both are here to speak on those in their 20s and 30s. Now, as usual, we're going to start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending online. Starting tomorrow, August 1st, South Korea's former presidential compound and new tourist hotspot, Cheongwade, also known as the Blue House, will extend its reservation hours so visitors can arrive there later. Previously, the last online reservation slot was at 4:30 p.m., but it will now be extended to 5 p.m. The compound is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., except for Tuesdays. You can make free reservations on Cheongwade's official website. Moving on, staying in Korea, it seems that 7 out of 10 people from the older generation are eager to work. According to Statistics Korea on Tuesday, as of May, 11 million out of the nearly 16 million people aged 55 to 79, labeled by the agency as the elderly population, expressed a desire to continue working in the future, regardless of whether they're currently employed or not. The main reasons cited were to cover living expenses and the joy of working. Moving on, research by the Korea Consumer Agency revealed that some finance apps require users to provide up to 52 types of personal information to earn points through reward-based ads. This practice is part of so-called app tech, a trend where people engage with finance through apps, such as earning points by completing tasks, for example, daily check-ins or viewing ads. The study examined 9 popular apps, including Shinhan Seoul Bank, Kakao Bank, Toss, and others. So, here in the studio, I want to ask you, what types of personal information are these apps actually collecting? 52!
Yeah, so I can't name 52 here, otherwise we'll be here for the whole episode. And
right.
We won't be able to get to our main subject. But the main information provided ranges from obviously your name, your contact details, including your phone, your address, etc. This is where it gets a bit iffy or a little bit a bit too personal in my opinion. The comprehensive income tax return statements, which I don't know why they would need that, and earned income payment statements. Now, obviously this is something that your bank knows, but when it comes to certain applications like Kakao Bank or Toss or whatever, they really, I think, don't need your information. And I just don't agree with giving out this much information, 52 kinds of information to these applications, but I'm sure they already have it, to be honest with you.
Right. I mean, I didn't know that. I also use these platforms, but I didn't know that 52 types of my personal information could be collected by these platforms. So I want to ask you, Kyun, are most users aware of this?
You know, thank God I don't use any of these
Really?
app tech programs, but unfortunately, no, to answer your question. A survey conducted by the Consumer Agency among 1,000 people with experience of these app techs over the past 6 months revealed that when performing these missions, they had to agree to provide personal information to third parties. And most of these respondents actually thought they were only providing up to 5.7
So 10
personal.
times more
Exactly.
in reality.
Yeah, in reality. So they only thought they were providing 1/10 of the actual personal information they're giving out. And if you think about it, when you give out personal information, you are very subject to getting scammed, and you'll end up losing quite a lot of money. And even though you are legally protected, it's going to take you a very, very long time to actually get the money back. So, I mean, there are 2 sides to every page.
Right.
So I think, even though I don't use it, I know why people use these apps, because they earn points and they can use it as cash, but they have to be extra careful as to how much information they're actually providing and read through all the terms and conditions thoroughly.
Right. So users should be careful. And also, the agency has recommended app developers to set up procedures for withdrawing consent for data sharing. And that was our news feed for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day by taking a look at the screen.
We often think of the younger generation as tech-savvy and efficiency-driven, making city life seem like a perfect fit. But we are noticing a growing trend. More millennials and Gen Z are leaving the hustle and bustle of big cities for small towns and the countryside, often getting into farming or agriculture. Today on News Generation, we're exploring what's behind this movement.
So starting off, let's take a look at whether we're actually seeing more young people in Korea moving to the countryside. So Kyun, how many people are actually moving to the rural areas, and are actually more people in the younger generation becoming farmers?
Yes, they are. So, according to a survey taken by the Ministry of Agriculture, there has been an uptick of people moving to the countryside just to live there or to become actual farmers. So, to give you some numbers, let's take a look at the screen. So, like I said, was a survey taken by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs in the year 2023. Households under the age 30 took up 10.8% of the total number of farmers, that is 1,112 households, whereas they took up 43.3% of the total population of moving back to rural areas to reside, a total of 132,805 households. And ever since 2019, the younger population, those under 30s, have now become the majority age group among the households moving back to rural areas from the city area, clearly showing the growing preference of young people moving out from the city to live in the countryside and even pursuing a career in agriculture.
Pursuing a career in agriculture definitely seems quite new for
is.
the younger generation, because there's kind of like this image of farmers here in Korea in the past where farming was sort of like a profession for the older generation, for example, our grandparents and etc. So today let's focus more on the rise of young farmers. So Walter, why do you think that agriculture is becoming a more appealing career choice among the younger generation?
First, I'd like to know where they're getting the money to go and do this agricultural.
Oh, that's a strong question.
Because I can't afford to go out there just yet, but it's in the plans. So according to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, there are a number of reasons why young Koreans are choosing to move to the countryside. Some include, as Ki-hoon mentioned, business opportunities. So obviously they're understanding that the agricultural area is starting to grow and it's becoming bigger. Sadly, Korea is not such a big country, so there isn't a lot of places where you can actually grow, and it's a very mountainous country as well, so there's not many flat areas, so eventually we're going to run out of land, I think. And others include the love of nature. Of course, nature is beautiful. It's different from Seoul, obviously, where we have the city jungle, where
The skyscrapers,
the cars, the beeping, the horns, etc. We also talked about affordable housing as well. Even though, even there are YouTubers now, and I've seen them. A lot of YouTubers are doing farming vlogs these days and showing people what it's like to live on farms, and that's becoming a new trend. So any chance that the younger generation can make a vlog out of something, I guess they'll do it. So yeah. There are many reasons.
These vlogs definitely show that how farming is becoming an appealing career option for the younger generation. Now, what could be some other factors, Kyun?
Well, one reason could be from the pandemic that the world suffered in 2019. Obviously, the economy took a big downturn, and those in their 20s and 30s like us were hit the hardest, as we were considered the most vulnerable age group. So many chose to move out from the city where cost of living, housing and competition was much lower, just like what Walter said. Another factor is that more young people have become digital nomads.
Right.
And we've talked about this a lot in NewsGen, not having to be physically present at an office. So it gives them the opportunity to live closer to nature, outside the hustle and bustle of the city, not having to give up the jobs in Korea while making a living, obviously. And lastly, the government has been taking measures to sustain and promote the agriculture industry by coming up with policies to attract new young farmers. So there is a comprehensive website that provides all the details and information a young person pursuing a career in agriculture needs, including job opportunities, education, welfare, financial support, and more. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, it's youngfarmer.greenterro, DAERO, that is, .go.kr. So for those who are interested in agriculture or just living in rural areas, please take a look at the site.
Right, I might want to check the site out after today's episode. Now, you guys are both part of the younger generation, right? So,
yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, so
Used to be.
Used to be.
Well, you guys are still young. You are part of the MZ generation. So,
Sadly.
I want to ask you whether you have considered moving to the countryside or even becoming a young farmer.
Me? Well, To be honest, my late grandparents were farmers most of their lives, and they helped raise 5 of their children and 9 grandchildren, one of them being myself. So I'm actually quite proud to have grandparents who were farmers, and I actually had the chance to work at their farms 20 years ago.
Wow.
For 2 months, and I know how hard it is to actually work at a farm because I've been there and done that. It's just physically arduous, but once I actually experienced farming, just for that short moment, I realized that all the food that I eat on the dinner table, they're so precious. You know,
right.
I know all the hard work that needs to go in just to have the food that we just kind of not really think about at all the process. But ever since that experience, you know, I try not to waste food, which obviously, you know, tries to help the environment as well. And if I did have the opportunity in the future, yes, I would definitely live in the countryside with fresh air, less noise pollution, less people.
More vegetables.
More vegetables,
livestock.
yeah. So that is definitely one option that I will take in the future.
So Kyun's answer is yes. What about you, Walter?
It's a definite yes for me. Under all this makeup is a hard living person who actually lived in the countryside for most of his life growing up. So this is why we wear makeup, because otherwise I wouldn't look like an MZ or I would look like someone who's in their 40s. However, we've talked about this many times. I want to retire and live in the mountains or live off the land and grow my own vegetables, raise my own livestock, live out in nature. This is something that I'd love to do because
you planned it out thoroughly already.
I've already planned it out thoroughly. The only person I have to convince is my wife, which I don't think she's going to be interested in at all. So either I'm going to have to live by myself, or she's just going to have to put up with me just being out in the countryside, which she's not going to do it. And she's the boss, so I'm probably not going to go there. But if I can convince her, yes, I'd love to go to the countryside.
Well, dear Walter's wife, if you're looking at today's episode, please consider.
Please consider it.
Or you can just go with me.
Yeah, we'll go together. Yes, of course.
For a month or two.
That sounds fun and nice as well. So we've been talking about how it is like here in Korea, but to find out whether this trend is happening in other parts of the world as well, we're now going to invite a Spanish Gen Z to our talks right after this break. So today we're joined by Paula Iglesias, a Spanish Gen Z. Welcome, Paula, to the show.
Hi, hello.
Hi, nice to have you, Paula. So our first question for you today is, we've heard that there are many young farmers in Spain. So I want to ask you, is that true, and why do you think that's happening?
Well, I believe that there has been a rising tendency amongst young people taking up farming in these last few years. So I would say that maybe this is because of the social economic situation here in Spain, since rent prices are rising in the bigger cities and the labor market is becoming really competitive here.
So Paula, in our earlier discussions, we mentioned that more young people in Korea are leaving big cities for the countryside, with some taking up farming. Is this a trend that's also becoming more common over in Spain, where you are?
Yes, I would say that more young people are gravitating towards living big cities. As I mentioned before, these capitals are becoming very competitive, so a lot of younger people are looking for other places to live. And some of them might find farming as a suitable way of making a living.
And some governments, for example, like the Korean government, seem to be encouraging young people to move to rural areas to address population imbalances and revitalize the regions. Do you also think that these are some of the benefits that come with more young people moving to the countryside?
Yes, 100%. I think that it's really important that these underpopulated areas are getting the help they need to promote young people living here. So here in Spain, we also have this type of policies, such as you talked about in Korea. They are way more old people working in the fields than young new workers. So it would be really interesting for the government to really push in these policies and allow to have a generational change. So this way we can preserve not only the enterprises, but also the culture that you have in these rural areas.
Definitely. All right, Paula, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so as we briefly mentioned in the interview in the last question, the Korean government appears to be keen on encouraging more young people to settle in rural areas. So Kyun, can you tell us more about some of the support measures and plans that the Korean government has rolled out?
Besides the website that I just introduced,
You
Green
really seem to like that website.
I love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a regular viewer.
I am. The Yoon administration plans to foster 30,000 young farmers by the year 2027 and transition 30% of horticulture and livestock barns digitally using AI and IoT. So the plan aims to increase more young farmers by offering funds to loan out land for agriculture with affordable interest rates. And because, obviously like what Walter said, it's not easy to start farming all of a sudden. You need to loan out the land, and it's not
Right.
like a small piece of land. It's just hectares of land, and obviously the government is willing to actually loan out at a very affordable price, and also with education as well. You need to actually learn how to farm first, and they're providing like free education as well in many universities. So I think it's a great opportunity for younger farmers who want to pursue a career in agriculture.
Right, so supporting smart farming, loans, low interest rates, and even free education. So the government has rolled out so many initiatives to really nurture these young farmers. So Walter, I want to ask you, why do you think there's such a big push from the government for this?
Well, we actually talked about it with our Gen Zeta today as well, that, there could be many reasons for it. One is to, raise the population out in the countryside. As we know, there aren't a lot of people living in the countryside here in South Korea, and as well as like doctors and things that people need. So this may influence the population out in the countryside. But the government is really trying their best to roll out various rural local government supporting programs and aimed at the younger people to counteract the decrease that we are having here in Korea. Now, they recruit participants for farming and rural living experiences and they offer various educational programs and support services. And there's even a thing called a happiness expo, which talks about, the happiness of living in the nature in countryside rather than living in a very dense populated city or even outside of the dense populated city. But, get a smell of that fresh air. It makes me happy anyway.
Okay, so for happy and young farmers, right?
Yes, happy and young farmers.
Right, so to get more suggestions, we also asked our viewers for their ideas on how to attract more young people like them to the countryside. And here's what 3 of them said. So if we look at the comments, Hi Blue says, to make rural areas more attractive, we need to strategically develop affordable housing, commercial and leisure facilities, and transportation services. We also should enhance the educational capacity of local national universities. Leon says the first step is to improve amenities and infrastructure, like ensuring reliable and fast internet access to support remote work, education, and entertainment. Second is to create good job opportunities, and third is to create a vibrant community. Ask Morgan says, as someone who has lived in big cities their whole life, I'm really drawn to a slower, more peaceful way of living. However, I do need to be in close proximity to the fun life for some balance and a wider variety of options, especially for food. So, a lot of great opinions that our viewers have given. And last but not least, before we wrap up our discussion today, anything you'd like to add after looking at our viewers' comments or about our topic in general?
I have a question actually for Eugene, because
Okay.
I know you're a person who likes to laze around.
Oh my gosh! Hey, we're on air. My reputation.
Would you like to live in the countryside yourself? Would you ever consider a farming career in your life?
Well, I think that I have the potential to be a good farmer. I don't. Well, I think it's definitely worth trying.
Yes.
I'm really accustomed to living in the city because I lived in Seoul for my entire life. But I think that I am up for the job, for the profession, after listening to all the benefits and the advantages of farming and moving to the countryside. So why
So
not?
let's all three go to the countryside after
Maybe
we
we
finish
should.
with Arirang and grow our own vegetables.
Right. So anything last but not least you'd like to add?
You know, I've lived in the city all my life as well, and I know it's not an easy choice to make to, you know, live in the countryside where you don't have any friends around or even your family members. But I think it will be a great career opportunity if you really have that passion in agriculture, and not just from an individual point of view, but if you think on the bigger perspective, it's also about food security. And in the midst of like wars happening, that's how, you know, food prices go up. So just like looking at the nation from a country economic side, I mean, we do need agriculture, and it's a very important industry as a nation.
Right. Anything you'd like to add, Walter?
No, well, like I said, I just can't wait till we all decide to move to the countryside in a couple of years' time after we're too old for this show.
And then we'll do like a recap. We'll do another Newsgen episode
From our farm.
from the farm. So please stay tuned for that, everyone, as well. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. But we'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks today to Park Yoon
Always a pleasure.
and Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And thank you everyone for watching. And a quick reminder that Arirang TV is conducting a program survey, including Newsgen, in order to meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at our official website or mobile app for your valuable feedback until August 4th. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in, and see you tomorrow. We are
News Generation.